and welcome back to Here Be Dragons. I am your host, Sparky Host Man. We are delighted this week to have our friend Yogi back, aka Flamio Hotman.
Hotman?
Got Combustion Nessie and a surprisingly knowledgeable merchant of orange juice.
And ironically, I don't have any of the orange juice today. Like, what am I doing? I have the water. I'm letting myself down.
But I put it in a teacup to look professional.
I'm having the typical coffee.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, it's midnight in Germany. I can't have coffee. I have to go to bed after this.
Right.
Okay. Let's go with
I got you. Oh, wow.
Everyone else is...
Yeah, so you get a beard too.
Which, by the way, like after this season, I'm very suspicious of your beard, Steven. I'm not convinced it's real now.
Fire, Wang fire. Yeah,
Wang fire.
So yeah, Avatar: The Last Airbender, season 3. That's what the topic is. I think you'll know from the title of the video, but still, like, wanted to say it out loud here at the beginning. That's what we'll be discussing. I've said it before. This is one of my favorite shows of all time. This is my favorite episode of this show. Yogi, I know you're a long-standing Avatar fan. I usually like to start with the guest first, but actually, John had like literally finished watching season 3 today.
Damn.
Never seen it before. So, John, we'll come to you next, Yogi, but John, tell me.
I have to start off by saying that, like, I want to do an analogy here because I feel like the prior seasons of this show were kind of like, I kept the beard today.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me.
We're kind of like, perhaps, yeah. The previous seasons of the show were kind of like, you're presented with a toy box, but you're told you can only take out certain toys at a time and only in certain combinations. There are rules here. And it's not that and sometimes you're allowed to take out your favorite toy with maybe a toy that you're kind of, so about, but it's still, you're having a good time. I feel like it doesn't mean you're not having a great time enjoying that, but still, then I feel like it's that way through about halfway through this season. And then the toy box gets shoved right in your face, turned over, flipped over, and it's like, play with them all. Like that's what this season ultimately becomes. And like when it got to a certain point, I was like, oh yeah. It's just, I like, not even by the time it was over, like by the time I was in the thick of this season, I was like now everything clicks for me in a way that it didn't before. It's almost like, I mean, I enjoyed the previous seasons, and especially I enjoyed last season more than season 1, but it's like once you get certain like final pieces like plugged in, it all of a sudden makes everything else sort of click into place. And that's the way I feel about the show now, to the point where I can't wait to go back. And rather than like what I've been doing for each discussion is sort of binging and going through all the episodes like in the day or two before our discussion. But now I really want to go back to the beginning and just sort of appreciate the rich tapestry of this show. And so the bottom line is I love this show, Steven, and it's wonderful.
I'm glad we finally got you to watch it. Okay, Yogi, talk to me about season 3. Where does it rank for you? What's your overall impression? Because I believe you've told me season 2 is your favorite.
Yes, that's true. I think season 3 is actually my second favorite season, but obviously I love all of Avatar. I think
Sure.
I prefer to think of it as one just big great thing. There's not really any like episode or anything in Avatar where I would say it's bad or even like below average for like most other cartoon shows. It's just that I always feel like not to get me immediately critical, but like I always feel like season 2 feels a lot more streamlined to me. Like it's all building up to the finale, the Crossroads of Destiny. Whereas with season 3, I always felt like the first, the like sort of like adventure episodes aren't as equally dispersed, and they're sort of like all in the first quarter of the season. Then you have the Day of Black Sun in the middle, which isn't the finale, so it's weird. So it's not like the end game, even though it's very much like most shows would have this as the climax. So you're like, this is exciting, but I know it's not gonna shake out. And then after that, you have this whole other thing where it's Zuko joining them, and you have the individual Zuko field trip episodes, which are all great. And then you kind of you jump from that to the fight. And it's still all obviously well done, but it always to me felt more like the climax of season 2 was just built to. You spend the entire season, we have to go to Ba Sing Se, we have to find an earthbending teacher, we have to this, we have to that, and it all ends up with this final showdown. With season 3, it's like, we're doing this, now we're doing that, now we're doing this, and then you have the finale. But the finale is very good, and obviously I love it. Like, it's got some of my favorite episodes, favorite moments. It's one of the best endings to any show ever. Like, I've rarely been this satisfied by any finale of any show. So I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. I obviously love it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be on this stream.
Right. You wouldn't have said, I'll want to come on the next one and talk.
Because I missed season 2. I would have loved to talk about season 2. But I obviously am happy to talk about season 3 as well, because it is very good.
Okay, well, we saved the best for last. Nessie, talk to me about season 3.
Well, I was only going to be able to make probably one of the Avatar streams, so guess which one is my favorite? I said season 3.
I knew you needed to be here for this one.
Yes, I needed to be here for this one. Yes, it is just a culmination of so many different arcs. We get so much lore. We get success, we get failure. I just love it. I do. It's just the best. All the characters kind of really just coming into their own, and especially, hey, Sokka, it's like, yes, finally. Yes, my boy finally like shows his, it's got his shining moment, which is he levels up. That's fine. It's been a long time coming for him. So Ahsoka had a great arc.
He's really a Faramir in this series a lot of times, but by the end he does get a chance to show his quality.
Mm-hmm. Plus we get airships, which my love of airships, Steven. Lots of airship battles. Yes.
So I said at the top, this is my favorite season. Although I think your critique about Yogi, your critique about putting all the quote unquote filler at the beginning part of the season, again, it's not always obvious, but each of them really does build an individual part of the team. In the you have the awakening, first episode of the season. Okay, great. Let them catch us all up and sort of set the stage for what's next. Then we have a very Aang-centric episode with, Avatar Footloose.
Yes.
Right.
Because that's what that episode is. It's Footloose.
Mm-hmm.
It's Avatar Footloose, followed by Avatar Captain Planet in the next episode.
Right, but that's also a very Katara-centered episode, and then we get Sokka's master. So it is a chance to sort of like give them one last opportunity before moving into the end game of the whole story, to examine their various approaches, the things that are important to them, give them a chance to learn and grow. So they feel like filler because they're not as connected to the ongoing story, but they're still great because they give you such insight into those individual characters.
Yeah.
I also, in my opinion, I really don't like. Surprise! You were afraid we weren't going to disagree on anything, Joggi.
I mean, I would like to put into protocol. I didn't call them fillers. I called them the meandering episodes because they're not like laser focused on getting
Right,
the.
right.
I don't think Avatar really has any filler episodes because they all contribute something to the characters or the plot.
The
There's nothing
Great
like, oh, we gotta fill
Divide.
time. Even the Great Divide's like
It's the biggest,
it's fine.
the biggest canyon in the Earth Kingdom. Let's just keep flying.
Yeah, I mean, the Great Divide is like, if you're gonna call any episode a filler, it's the Great Divide. But I'm not saying like I'm gonna let you finish your point, John. But like I just wanted to say I don't consider these episodes filler episodes. They're obviously all character building episodes. Like Steven said, you got Painted Lady is about Katara, Sokka's Master is about Sokka. You got the Runaway about Toph. You've got the Awakening about Aang. And I guess the bloodbending one is also about Katara in
And
a
you
way.
get the beach episode, which really lets Zuko get.
Oh yeah, the beach episode is about the villains,
Yeah.
and then they kind of do all of them in one episode. And you have the Avatar and the Firelord, which is I think might be my favorite episode of all of Avatar, maybe. And that's
Oh.
that's like the big backstory episode.
Right.
So that's also about Zuko a lot. So they fulfill definitely a very needed role. But yeah, sorry, John, finish your point. I just wanted to defend myself preemptively.
I'm the one that called them filler. I don't see them as filler either.
Yeah.
I actually think that, contrasting, I actually think that all the episodes are pretty perfectly placed because I think that, like, once you are sort of got your foot on the gas pedal, I think the latter half of the season is very purposely driving towards an end game, and I think that these earlier episodes you kind of have to have them at this point. What I like is that it's building up to what would naturally be a climax for the story that we've been following, and sort of it's setting that up. And when it's the episode The Day of the Black Sun hits halfway through the season, that's not going to be the end of it. But to my mind, that just adds so much dread to those episodes because you're like, this feels like a climax, but it's not going to go well. It kind of reminds me actually of, in a lot of ways, of the final season of Battlestar Galactica, because you get to that point halfway through where they think spoiler alert, but they think they found Earth, and then they're just met with a like crushing blow and halfway through. But what I like is that after that, it's almost like that's what I was talking about. Like once you get past that midpoint with the big battle and the defeat they suffer, then it's like we turn this corner and all of a sudden we get to play with all the action figures we wanted to play with, because Zuko gets thrown into the mix, and it creates this whole different dynamic for the group and for the show that is so much fun to just then explore for a few episodes before things sort of ratchet back up. And so I have to say I don't have their qualms about the placement of episodes, because I just think it's beautiful the way it's done. Hi, Micah. And like there's no question that season 3 is my favorite. I just love it.
Okay.
Oh, which by the way, one of my favorite lines for the whole season. Hello, Zuko here.
Yeah.
That's one of the best
Zuko's
lines.
got a
And
couple
like,
of great
Oh my
lines.
god.
There's that one, and then there's also the legendary "That's rough, buddy."
Yeah.
That's rough, buddy.
Like that's a total meme. I don't know if you've ever seen the meme, but like it's definitely a huge.
And that's the thing, like those couple of episodes like following the mid-season climax are so funny because finally Zuko is allowed to just sort of let loose because now he's on the right path, and so he's still got his broody element, but but he's allowed to be funny, and
good Zuko is definitely one of the one of the best elements of season 3.
To the point that when it's in modern parlance, to craft a really excellent, or to have a really excellent redemption arc is called pulling a Zuko.
I was going to say, after watching the final season, it totally makes sense to me why, so many people across, different fandoms that I'm involved in, maybe one more than the others, are so obsessed with the redemption arc. They just they want everybody who's on, even potentially in a redemption arc to be Zuko. I've decided.
Yeah.
Seriously, why is being so good so hard?
Right.
Yeah. Though you could make, of course, the argument that he was kind of, there wasn't really any singular deed that he had to redeem himself from. Not really any specific character trait of his. It was more that his priorities just weren't straightened out. Because if you think about it, we can get into this, but what I think makes Zuko's redemption arc probably the best one of the best ones I've ever seen or read is that he didn't change any of his fundamental values that made him Zuko. Because one of the core things about what makes Zuko Zuko is that he never gives up. That's kind of his whole thing. It's the whole thing about Azula was born lucky and he was lucky to be born, and he had always had to fight very hard. So I think if they'd had him turn to good at the end of season 2 with the Crossroads of Destiny, that wouldn't have worked for me, because his goal in the end was still to regain his honor and the appreciation of his dad and his nation. So by allowing him to succeed in that in season 3, what they did was they let Zuko finish his goal, so it keeps in character with him never giving up. And it was only after he succeeded that he realized that he didn't need it. And that's what made him turn. That's what I think is the brilliant twist in his redemption arc.
And I think it was really important for him also to go on that stretch of his arc without his uncle. It sort of because for a while it was by the way, I want to give props to the voice actor who took over for Iroh. He's nobody's Mako, but he damn near
he did a great job.
If you were not super paying attention to who's playing who in this show and you're watching it for the first time and you don't have any outside knowledge, you might not have even noticed a changeover. I was very, very impressed. But
Greg Baldwin is his name.
Yeah, but because he had done such a good job voicing, I was actually disappointed once Iroh disappears for a long stretch. So I'm like, I want Iroh back. But I came to realize that it was very, very important that he steps out of the story for a large chunk of season 3, because Zuko needs to go on that journey by himself, and it just makes it all the more tear jerking when they're reunited. That hug, man.
Yeah,
I was a mess.
I wasn't going to start
the tear bending.
I wasn't going to start digging into why I thought Zuko's redemption arc was so fantastic, but since you twisted my arm, I'll say what I have to say. At the end of season 2, Zuko has found himself in a place where he has become comfortable with the idea of never achieving his goal. I can live my life and find some happiness without it. That's where he was. He had not rejected his goal.
Mm-hmm.
He had just made peace with not achieving it, which is why when it was presented to him, he turned like that. And then he went home and everything was beautiful and perfect, just the way he thought it would be, except it's not that at all, of course.
Mm-mm. No.
He's disappointed with himself.
He comes to reject the idea of what he wanted completely. And that's where the genuine change in his character comes from. And honestly, up to the point on the day of Black Sun where he faces down his father, that is the beginning of his true redemption arc, because he's not actually finished until after the Southern Raiders, where he's gone to all the people where he's sought out the people he's harmed, apologized, not blamed them for any of it, even when when he can't figure out what to do. He doesn't say, why aren't they listening to me? He says, why am I so bad at this? He doesn't blame them. And then he goes one by one to help them achieve their personal goals to make amends. And that's what real redemption looks like. And that's hard to do.
Yeah.
To face the people you've hurt without any malice or trying to victim blame them at all, and then try to help them find a better place in their own life. That's hard to do, but that's why his redemption arc is the best one.
I think I can hear myself echoing in there somewhere. No matter. There was a point last night where I was watching, and Stephen, in the Slack you wrote, and you haven't even gotten to the good part yet. And then about like 45 minutes later, I think I typed in like, holy shit, or something like that, because I had gotten to the scene where Zuko confronts his father.
Yeah.
Like, it was just so gratifying. It's like, yes.
Firelord Ozai, voiced by the impeccable Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I just assume that like 95% of the stuff you love, Stephen, has Mark Hamill involved in some capacity.
If
you can't do
Mark
no
Hamill's
wrong.
involved, chances are I'll love it.
Yeah. Also, Ozai is really I mean, that's another thing about season 3. First time that we actually see Ozai, and he's just a kind of a regular looking. I mean, he's pretty shredded, but other than that, he's a pretty normal looking guy, which I thought was interesting. Because actually, when I was a kid, I was convinced. This was like the first time I can ever remember having a fan theory about anything. When I was a little boy and I was watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, I was convinced that Ozai had a scar like Zuko. Like that he had been fucked up in some way by his own dad. That it was sort of like a thing that they just kept doing to each other, and that's why he was so mean. But then he just turned out to be a normal-looking guy, which is, I guess, like
an asshole.
Anticlimactic in like a good way, because it's like he's just, fire Hitler. He doesn't need to have some cool scar or anything like that. He's just a guy, and very like you can also tell, especially in that scene with Zuko, you can really tell that he's Azula's father, because you can the way they write him, a lot of his lines you can tell that they might as well just be Azula's lines. I always think of when he says to Zuko about Iroh, he can pass on to you the ways of tea and failure, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's such an Azula thing to say. It's a sick burn. Yeah, that's some firebending right there. Burn bending. So that's just, you could really tell that like Azula is really Ozai's child much more than Zuko is. And
I think another one of my favorite bits comes from that scene is where Ozai says something like, your uncle's gotten to you, or your uncle's rubbed off on you, or something. And the way Zuko just calmly says, yes, he has. It's like that moment for me is so great because he's not showing like the insult, the intended insult doesn't like faze him at all, because he loves his uncle so much, and he's proud to have have his uncle to have had an influence on him.
To be compared to Iroh is to be compared to greatness.
Yeah.
And of course he also says what everyone's been thinking, that he says Iroh's been more of a father to me than you ever were, which is also very true.
Yeah.
And everybody very sad, because obviously Iroh lost his son, and it's a whole sad thing. Yeah. But that's season 2 stuff.
But he did.
I mean,
every season has that Iroh making us cry moment.
Sometimes more than once a season.
Yeah.
This is true. Iroh's he's the last tear bender.
It's like I'm gonna be honest, guys. Like, in the early days of our discussions about this show, and even beforehand, when like I would hear like the the love you guys had for Iroh, like what did you guys call him? Your
The ultimate comfort character.
yeah, it like
Yeah.
because like I hadn't arrived yet at the place where the show would just be really sort of
Oh my God.
Taking over my heart basically. Like I thought Iroh was a great character, and I love Mako. Obviously his voice goes back to my childhood and stuff, but like I feel like I hadn't quite gotten there, and there was just this feeling in me that like this is a really good show and a really well made show, but maybe I'm feeling like the hype has just been a bit too much. But man, when that hug happened with the reunion, I'm like, I love this man with every fiber of my being.
I know.
Who cried? Who cried? Come on, show of hands.
I mean,
come on.
I mean, duh.
You might as well who is not a liar.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Raise your
I
hand.
just like, yeah. He's
Every
utterly fantastic.
So
and
Iroh, he's in that like bearded old mentor club that's like Gandalf and Dumbledore are also hanging out in like his.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of. It's just that kind of archetype, but so well done.
Oh yeah.
and that's the thing that I really want to
That
sort
beard
of
magic.
the
beard,
the one thing that I really want to drive home about my journey with this show is because I really love when this happens, because the love was not instantaneous with this. But I've gone on a journey over the course of the watching these 3 seasons from like, yeah, okay, this is entertaining, to the end where I was like, this show is effing amazing and I love it. And so for me, that's just the best thing in the world, to go on that emotional journey, and makes me really excited to go back and watch it from the beginning with this love that I now have for it in my heart.
Now that you know all the secrets and yeah.
Well,
It's
almost
a good
almost
rewatch
all
show.
because the show leaves us with a really
Right.
freaking big question.
Yeah.
is
Where's
my mother? Which, the delivery of that line by Dante Bosco is just so good too. I mean, there's
And I
The
understand, that there's a comic about that,
Yeah.
but like for me, like it feels like, and there's another show which I won't mention because I shouldn't, give an indication of what I'm talking about, but it reminds me of another show where the ending is like a really big tease for a sequel series. But unfortunately the show was made many years ago, and I know that the sequel series they ended up doing was not picking up that strand, so I'm just like, god damn it. But I'm sure I'll get to the comic at some point.
But like,
Yeah.
so they don't answer the question about Zuko's mother in the show, but they literally tie up everything else really succinctly, to the point that you have not only the core 4 with Toph, but you've got Zuko and May and Suki and Ty Lee and Uncle Iroh all hanging out in the tea shop, living their best life. What better ending is there for this show than to remember all of its characters that way?
It is, but at the same time, it also like leaves it in a place where I'm like, can I just see more adventures with all these characters?
Yeah, I think originally they wanted to make like a TV movie about what ended up being the comic, where they look for Zuko's mom.
Okay.
But because it is kind of like when he says that, "Where's my mother?" You can almost like hear The Surge now available in the bookstore near you.
Well, I know that they just started up Avatar Studios, which has the creators of the show in charge of like animated projects they're going to be doing. So
yeah, they might make that movie still.
Yeah,
it can happen.
Well, they could make. There's also, I think, there's also like novels about Avatar Kyoshi that they could make into movies.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
But they'd probably have to make those R-rated because of all the violence. But yeah, I mean, the thing about Zuko's mom is that they kind of, I mean, they answered it in a way. They answered it as much as they could in a show that's like for kids. So, I mean, when I was a kid, I didn't get it, what happened. But when I rewatched it as an adult, that episode about, actually, Zuko alone back in season 2.
Yeah.
Like, they kind of hint at like the general.
Oh yeah, I can guess what occurred. I just want to know where she is now. So.
Yeah. She totally killed the old
life.
Yeah, she did. Hopefully.
I will say, like, just sort of jumping back as we're talking about all this stuff towards the end of the season, but like I did feel like this season started off like it, just it's foot to the gas with the first episode, and then of course we get some episodes that are slow things down and more character based. But the episode that really like I got so super excited was the Avatar and the Firelord, because I love my flashback episodes that like give you a mythology dump. Because that was such a great episode, because I love getting to see that history.
With the Avatar and the Firelord?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get all the Roku history and
yeah, I think I said earlier it might be my favorite episode of Avatar, even though it doesn't have any of the Avatar characters in it.
But it just explains so much of the backstory here.
Yeah.
The connectivity.
And it's just so well shot and animated and anything.
Yeah, it's just, how great is it to see an old man having a fist fight with a volcano and winning?
Right?
Yeah, it makes you forgive them that, because you can kind of tell that they wanted to have that. I'm not sure if they came up with this backstory for Zuko after they'd already finished writing season 2, or if this was always the plan. But by making Sozin an old man at the beginning of the war, they kind of messed the timeline up, because in the Zuko alone episode in season 2, Azulon is an old man, but he was an old man when Zuko was already alive, and the war was supposed to be 100 years. So, like, I think mathematically speaking, Azulon would have had to have been Firelord for like 97 years or something for it to make sense.
Because you have Sozin, then Azulon, then Ozai, Ozai.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And obviously, like...
So, Azulon died when Zuko was like 10-ish?
Yeah.
So, like 7 years ago. And then, but then Sozin was already a super old man by the time the war started. So Azulon,
you're right.
But because I think the original plan was to have Roku and Sozin be young men in that flashback episode, and then they changed them to be old people. So that kind of messed the timeline up. But I guess Azulon just, maybe he was born when his dad was 90 and then he lived to be 120 years old. Who cares? It's just something I noticed.
To be like, what, 230 or something like that?
That's true. And like Boomy is
112
in the show, and he kept living a couple of years. So people can get reasonably old.
Yeah.
I'm not prepared to get this picky about math yet. I'm still in the glow of enjoying.
This is true. It took me like 7 rewatches to even be like, hold on. Shouldn't there be one more?
I think there's some lore in there in the I don't know if it's in the series or the manga or whatever, but about if they interacted or came in contact with or used the comet in some way that like vastly extended their lifespans, and not vastly, like not like hundreds of years, but extended their lifespan along with their power and their bending abilities. So
it's true. And Azula did say that Sozin was ancient when he died, which could mean like 130 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it would have been an easy fix if they would have just made Sozin Zuko's great-great-grandfather.
Yeah,
And, like
throw
invented
Firelord
another.
in the middle.
Yeah, just invent another one like I don't know, as I don't know what's I don't know, some other name with a Z, and then it's fine. But yeah,
Firelord
that's just
Zed.
like that.
Anyway,
Firelord
let's get on to important things.
This is true. I didn't
I-
want to derail it like that. It's just the thing that I noticed.
I picked this up about a week or so ago. I wanted to show it off.
Oh crap! Okay, you know what? You're getting the
nice.
full screen for a second there, John.
Yeah, because I don't know how well you can see it with the glare and
Oh,
stuff.
there,
but
yeah.
There we
Hair
go.
rupees and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hair
Man.
rupees.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I was very excited to pick this up. Yeah, Katara remains my favorite character out of the whole show. So
That's a good pick.
Yeah, like there's not a bad pick.
There's no
There's
bad.
not a bad pick.
Okay, so John, well, I'll ask you this. At the end, like there are two camps that watch this show among the shipping community.
Oh, no.
There are those that love Katang, and there are those that want
Zutara.
Zutara.
I'm like, I'll get there immediately. Zutara.
Steven's going to start a flame war in the comment section.
Look, I'm all about that Taka. Give me the top Taka ship. Oh yeah, I love it.
Actually, that reminds me of something. I did something the other day where I was like, I was just thinking to myself, I wonder if there's like any line that the shipping community won't cross. So I started Googling random character name combinations. I Googled like Azulang or Thailang and like Zuko and stuff like that, and they all exist.
Of course they do. But like, so John, did you find it satisfying? Did you find the sort of romantic tension between Zuko and Katara compelling at all? Do you think it was there at all?
I mean, obviously, because this is the way. Like, there's always got to be something with the quote unquote bad boy of the, of the story, which nauseates me because I am not a bad boy. Type. So that always annoys the hell out of me. I'm like, why can't the good guys get
Well, the good guy does though.
Yeah, and so I was actually happy with that. Although to tell you the truth, it kind of caught me off guard that Aang even lived through the end of the story, because I thought he was headed for like sort of sacrifice to save the world, and so it actually surprised me that he lived throughout the story. So I don't know. Had he died, would I have been okay with Zuko and Katara? Maybe, but I'm personally glad it didn't go that way.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Like, if Katara is your favorite character, and you probably identify with Aang in a lot of ways because he's the font of positivity and whatnot. Like, I can see it why you would prefer that pairing, that romantic pairing. There's a lot of love for Zutara, and like they did work for it too. If it had ended that way, it wouldn't have been surprising, I'll say. But Zuko ends up with May, who, when I talked about this show, I don't know, 2 years ago, I basically said, why is May the type of girl that I'm attracted to? Like, why her?
Oh, we're going to get into this, huh? Oh, boy.
Oh boy.
Oh, boy.
Well, I don't know that I understand the answer to it, but like some part of me is like, why is the girl I always like the May? Anyway.
I mean, May and Zuko, they are in a way perfect for each other. They can just go and be miserable together, I guess.
I was honestly like, I was really sort of happy with the way they explored May's character and took her in directions that I was not anticipating.
Yeah, and Ty Lee as well by the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, when she, is you know, comes to May's, you know, defense. I'm like, yeah, there you go. I mean,
it is
that's
very.
what I
You
was
don't see
waiting
it
for.
coming, but it makes so much sense when it
Mhm.
happens. It's very
It's
well done.
one of the best lines in the whole series. What are you doing? Saving the jerk who dumped me.
It's true, yeah. I mean, they have a lot of. May has a lot of great lines. It's like when in the first episode, she's like, "Hey, how are you?" And Zuko starts going into this whole character monologue. I haven't seen my father in so many years, and he's like, "Gee, I just wanted to know if you I didn't ask for your whole life story."
Right. I mean, she's just got that Wednesday Addams vibe. That's just.
That's very true.
Yeah,
No,
okay, but see, like, why is anyway? I
Also a
digress.
non-bender, which is
Wednesday
always
Addams is a child, but
Which of course is, you know, hilarious since Stephen currently has, you know, has Wednesday picture up as his avatar on Twitter.
I'm
That's true.
shocked.
yeah,
I'm really shocked.
yeah. He said, surprising no one. Like,
yeah.
I said this a few days ago. I'm pretty sure the next cosplay I want to put together is Wednesday Addams.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, my daughter went as Wednesday Addams last year. She's so...
I mean, if you like Wednesday Addams, then you must also have a thing for June. Is that her name? She makes a return. The one with the giant anteater sniff
She ain't
monster.
bad. She ain't bad. Yeah, the
back,
one
yeah.
who rides the shoe.
She's usually like
yeah.
considered like the thirst trap of the show.
Yeah.
Very obviously so, yeah. And it is true. It is kind of they've got that energy. But maybe to bring it back very briefly.
Which is like low energy.
I don't know who this lady is, but I like her.
Yeah, also you got like Uncle Iris like perving out on her as well, but that's also season 2, so we don't have to get into that. But yeah, to get it briefly back to the shipping talk, I don't want to start a whole debate, but to me, so I'm personally, I have a slight Zutara preference, though I'm fine with either outcome. I just always felt that the age difference between Aang and Katara was kind of weird, because like Aang's supposed to be 12 and Katara's like 14. And I know it's only 2 years.
2 years, and as they grow up, it's not going to make any difference.
As they grow up, but I just feel like if I had a son who was 12 and he was like, "Hey, Dad, I have a girlfriend," I was like, "How old is she?" 14. I'd be like, "That seems like two very different levels of maturity to me."
It depends on the kid too.
It does.
I think it's going to be weirder in the live action adaptation.
because they made him way younger and her way older, so we're probably not going to get.
And also because
stuff.
The fact that it's animated just honestly makes it.
Yeah.
Like,
what I like about it though, like either
better.
outcome Zutara or Katang, is that they didn't treat it as like the characters like, because a lot of shows do this, which always annoys me, where they sort of give the female character as a reward to the hero at the end of the story. It's like, hey, you made it, you get the girl. And I never really got that vibe from Aang and Katara, because they had talked it out before, where they were like, I have these feelings, well, it's complicated, we have a whole war going on, we don't have time for this. So it was like the idea that after the war is done there will be room for this stuff was set up early on, so we didn't have to spend a lot of time with like, ooh, Aang is into Katara, but Katara, ooh, she's into Zuko, and it's this whole thing, and at the end, he won her back, stuff like that I always think is dumb. I think it was handled
and I think it was really
delicately.
Cool that the Ember Island players just really
they were Zutara as well.
Just like a brother. Like they really just leaned into that, you know.
Yeah, they rubbed it in.
Oh, yeah, you're so bad.
Yeah. Katara had a definite taste.
I mean, you could quote that entire episode. It's like, I hate you, Uncle. You smell, and I hate you for all time.
Or when Zuko dies, honor. His last word is like, okay.
Or like Azula's terrible line reads, Zuko, look, it's your honor. Where?
She disappeared. But how?
I know.
I don't know. Like, okay, I'm going to talk about this one for just a moment.
Yeah, I just have to say, like, I wish you hadn't said, like, right before I watched it, this is one of my favorite episodes ever of the series.
I'm sorry.
Because it kind of raised expectations a little bit, and I'm not sure that it completely...
It's not what you were expecting, was it, John?
It's the best recap show of any show ever. Best recap episode I've ever
Yeah,
seen.
that's true. If you're gonna do a clip show, that's the way to
It's
do
not
it.
even a clip show. It's
Mhm.
like it not only sort of retells the story and takes some shots at itself, both with
Yeah.
the let's just keep flying and like did Jet just die? You know, it's really unclear.
I
Like
did like that.
like and this moment, you know, I was at a convention once and I got a picture of a guy dressed like this, a big, you know,
Mhm.
Pacific Islander type guy dressed like this, and I'm like, I want to take a picture of you screaming in my face. And he did. I wish I still had that picture, but it's years ago.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what actually does like makes the end of this episode really hilarious, and it was not at all intentional because of just the fact that the horrific film adaptation came later, which I'm just saying horrific. I haven't even seen it, but I trust.
It's horrific.
I trust everybody else.
It's a badly made movie.
But the fact that they walk out of it and Zuko is like, that was a bad play, and it just something about the way they're commenting about it feels like it did get the movie, even though it couldn't have been yet.
Yeah.
But it just makes it really funny.
But the effects
my
were decent.
headcanon, I'm sorry, go ahead, Yogi.
No, I was just saying, like they're saying that was a bad play, but the effects were decent.
Yeah, like my headcanon is that Shyamalan did not make an Avatar: The Last Airbender movie. He made an Ember Islands Players movie.
Even the Ember Island
The same production company.
Yeah, but I do feel like this had to be far more entertaining based on what I've heard.
That is true. A thing I always found interesting about the Ember Island episode is obviously they take shots at themselves, and there is the bit where they recreate the drill attack, and then it cuts to the audience, and everyone's super bored in the audience. And I never got that. I was like, why are you? This is like amazing. But then I actually like went back, and it turns out that there are some people who say that the drill episode was this kind of like in a way you could say one of the more pointless episodes of Avatar, because it wraps up like within the episode,
right?
And nothing of consequence happens.
We're going after Appa. We're going after Appa. We're going after Appa. Drill. We're going after Appa.
Exactly. It's sort of like a boom. We have an episode that's just action. It's got nothing to do with the plot. I guess it later comes back with the whole we have to destroy Basing Say from the inside thing. So they kind of paid it off, but. Yeah, so I guess that was a shot at that they just threw the drill in there for nothing, and also that drill looks like a penis. Like, I'm sorry, but
absolutely
watching it as an adult, when like all the goo comes splashing out, I'm like, you guys know what you're doing. This is not me being like having like a filthy mind. This is so obviously like
rated.
Well,
like a child never would make that connection. But if you're watching it as an adult, you watch this thing like drill in there.
I love the drill.
I love the episode as well. It's a great like action thing. It's got some great lines and great fight, great music when Aang jumps down from the wall and stuff.
Oh yeah, like I brought that up specifically last time as one of the best shots in the whole series.
Yeah, it's great.
So,
But the drill is a penis.
yeah.
The drill is such a penis.
Such a penis.
And when it like slows down and stops after they destroy it, it's like, happens to every guy, but it just kind of fizzles out.
Like, yes.
Someone had to say it. Someone was going to point it out.
I curse you for this, Yodi, because now every single goddamn time I watch that episode.
So sorry. I mean, bless you for not thinking about it the first time you watched it.
Look, the show is not perfect. No show is perfect. But
it's about as perfect as it gets for a show,
it's
though.
about as perfect as it gets. Like, the fact that you can have this show that is sort of like they're putting 12-year-olds in the crosshairs with this show. And I'm 40 some odd years old, and it speaks to the very core of my soul still. They've done something right.
Yeah, although that does bring up something though that I thought was kind of funny. It's like when you can tell, like, yeah, this is a kids show. It's like after the halfway point of the season when the invasion fails, and they're like, "No, we'll all stay behind. You kids have to head off. You don't want to include one adult, maybe the guy in charge."
Maybe
I
like
mean, they've been doing great so far. Why include
This is
the
true.
adults now? You know,
I guess you
maybe
could
that's
say
why
like
it
the weight,
failed.
maybe the weight. Poor Appa was like, but that's actually another one of
One
my
more person.
but like the
points.
Duke
No, that's like
thing-
one of my points of criticism. I would say about season 3 is that some of the excuses seem a bit more flimsy than in season 2. Like the fact that they travel as a group alone through the Fire Nation is kind of like, why? I mean, I get that Aang, like, oh, I have to, he leaves because he feels bad and they find him, but why wouldn't they just take him back to the ship? Why do they need to walk the earth in, like, enemy territory? That just seems like such a big risk to take.
They need a
Because-
firebender, dude.
Because costume
And have to
change.
learn firebending.
Costume change, great new. I
Okay,
mean, I love the Fire Nation. I love all the stories there. This is, again, I'm nitpicking. I love the show. It's just one of those things where I feel season 2 just did it a little bit better. We have to get to Ba Sing Se, we have to travel the Earth Kingdom, and all made sense. With season 3, it's like, Sokka's gonna go to a secret prison. Why didn't he take Toph when the entire thing is made out of metal? Stuff like that. I just think there's more of that in season 3 than there is in
Yeah, but
season 2.
in fairness, there are definitely times when I, feel like Sokka's not going to think those things through. So
That's true. I mean, he even says in the episode, "You told me I shouldn't think everything through." When they get there with the
yeah, but
the Zeppelin thing. How are we gonna leave? Well, I didn't plan that far.
John, there has been a request for you.
yeah,
So-
I'll show. This is actually a Sanrixian shirt.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm gonna. There you go. Yeah, it's actually.
Yeah, it's in her Queen of Love and Beauty shirt, which is supposed to be Lyanna Stark, but I've just been saying it's Keira Knightley. So
I have the coffee cup.
So yeah, I'm all too rocking my Sandrixian dragon shirt because guys, dragons. We haven't even got to the dragons. I'm
Oh yeah, the dragons.
dragons,
We'll get there.
dragons.
but no, as to why I am wearing the shirt today, I've been wearing this every time we talk about Avatar because it represents the colors of the waterbending tribe.
I got you.
And then I feel like that's my camp.
Well,
So-
I wore this shirt today because was it Stephanie Frederick
Sasuke.
who had, I think it was Stephanie Frederick who was like, oh, it was Sasuke. You were just saying that. Like, which cup should I use? Nando from What We Do in the Shadows or the Ass Waffle one? And I voted for Ass Waffle, but I got outvoted. So I'm like, I'm going to wear the shirt in protest.
Wait,
my shirt, John's shirt, Nessie's shirt.
are you starting What We Do in the Shadows yet, Steven?
No, but it's basically at the top of the list for for what's next. But yeah, John's shirt, my shirt, Nessie's shirt, all Sanrixian designs. So
I got this shirt at H&M, in case anyone's wondering.
okay, cool. Let's see it.
Hey, I don't even know what it says. It says something. It was on sale, so and it fit. Those are my only two criteria.
It fits and it was cheap.
Yeah.
Cheap or on sale. Which is better?
One day I'll have a job that pays money, and then I'll buy all the Sanrixian merch that I want.
But anyway, it was this person asking, I'm really scared of butchering your name. It's been Senin, but that's our shirts.
I think it might be Apists.
It might be. I don't want to butcher anybody's names. I'll always try, but anyway, I digress. We're getting close to the midway point. Any final thoughts about what we were just talking about before that, which was, I don't even know, man. We've meandered through this whole conversation.
Yeah, we've been going.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about the drill and how it's cool but pointless.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that, and you were also saying you felt like some of the reasons that people did this and not that were a little flimsier. And I
Yeah.
think I get where you're coming from. The other side of that is like maybe in each individual case, I could come up with a good reason that makes pretty good sense to me. Also, thank you, Voice of Geekdom,
Thank
for
you. I was
posting that
looking for. We don't have a
Sanri
thing in
Sanri link because her stuff is really really good, and you can get it on t-shirts and masks and skateboard decks and coffee cups, and I've got a blanket of hers.
I mean, I often get slack for this, but honestly, like when I see what a show is trying to do as far as like sort of narrative drive and character matchups and stuff, I tend to not get too caught up in like something being totally logical, like the reason why it's just Zuko and Sokka, in that two-parter episode is because they wanted an episode where it was the two of them, together. And
again, it's a one-way trip, and Sokka's trying to do it without anybody else finding out, so he doesn't put anybody else in jeopardy. So it makes some level of sense.
Yeah, because I mean, he doesn't even. It's not like he starts off intending to take Zuko. He intends to just like go by himself. So it's very much like he doesn't want to risk anybody else other than himself. So.
And honestly, he didn't know where he was going. It's Ahsoka. It's not, it's not like he's got a map. He's.
Yeah, it's a good thing that he was found out immediately by Zuko.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we had a lull in the conversation. Let's just do the mid-roll, and then we'll come back swinging, because we haven't really talked a whole lot about the journeys that characters like Toph or Katara or Sokka went through this season. We've spent a lot of time on Zuko and sort of like our feelings overall, and a little bit on Aang, but I've got to get into the finale. Like, the finale is just, I've got to get into that. Anyway.
All right, but we do have to definitely
make time for.
We have to make time for Katara
and the dragons.
The dragons.
And the dragons. Like, there's still plenty to talk about, but mid-roll. Okay, don't go anywhere. We still have at least an hour left in this conversation, but please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. This is YouTube, and YouTube likes it when people do that thing. So I would take it as a personal favor if you would do that thing. You can follow us all on Twitter, me and John and Nessie. Yogi's links are down there as well, right there at the very top where we always put our guest links. Hi, Cassie. I love your new avatar. At least what I can see from it in a quick blink. Got to make sure we thank our patrons because they're awesome folks. Our patrons consist of our Patreon High Council, which is, of course, Ridiculous Ed Tollett, our Alpha Patron. Also, Lord John Bronsteen the Wise, and Sixto Sounds, a.k.a. JP the Axe Grinder, and the lovely Lady Leaf Underhill. Thank you, High Council, for all that you do for us. But they are supported by the lords and ladies of the realm, including Ryan Stavka, the Russian Quartermaster, the wonderful Reflective Rambling, and, of course, Arch-Maester Emma. Thanks, patrons. We love you guys. You are all collectively, basically, the best humans in the planet. And if you want to become one of the best humans on the planet, link is down in the description. Okay, Nessie, you have a channel. You haven't been doing much lately. Anything in the not too distant future?
I'm warming up to some things.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm warming back up. I've got some stuff in the fire.
Okay.
I've been slacking. I know.
No. Life is that way, and you're a respiratory therapist in the time of COVID. Like.
Yeah, it's Nessie. I mean, I don't do. like anything even remotely in the ballpark of what you do, and
Right,
I've had to
that's
take
true.
some time off. So yeah,
Yeah.
just do what you got to do, and
Yeah.
we'll all be here for you when you start back up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
I'll take my little 2 seconds to promote everyone. Please get your vaccine. Please, please, please get your vaccine. Do all the things. Continue to mask in public spaces. Make my job easier. Thank you. Good man.
yeah.
Thank you, Hotman.
I mean, this
Hotman.
plenty of.
Hotman.
How about you, Hotman? You have a channel called Through the Moon Door.
I
You
do
haven't done
indeed.
it's been a little while.
It's been a while, yeah, and I don't even have the excuse of being a hero. I'm just lazy. But no, I've been busy with. I didn't finish school, but I finished my bachelor degree. I've had some insomnia issues, so it's just hard to like get anything done, basically. And so I've also been in this sort of like transition period between my bachelor and starting my master's, where I just have like nothing to do. And I've always been a person who is more productive when I'm stressed, because then I just for some reason I get more things done when I have a lot of stuff on my plate, because I feel like I have less time to do the things I want to do. But if I don't have anything to do, then it's kind of hard to find the motivation to do anything.
Thank you.
So what I'm saying is, I do have an episode of Through the Moon Door planned. I should get back to actually Arch-Maester Emma, who is one of the patrons, and we were planning on doing an episode about the Brave Companions from Song of Ice and Fire. And I I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back at her now before I have to start uni again, and so that we maybe can even make that if she still wants to. It's been a long time since we talked about it, but it is made. Yeah, so you can look forward to that, and obviously you can follow my Twitter if you like people shitting on Darkstar and Dario Naharis and the Targaryens. Then my Twitter is right for you.
Link in the description. Link to both your Twitter and your YouTube channel in the description.
Thank you.
Okay, so hopefully something coming soon. I'm keep my fingers crossed for it. John, you've been off for a little while. Don't suppose you're coming back anytime soon. So we'll just skip right over you and
let's just get to the dragons already.
Do you have something to say, John?
Oh yeah, I do. Well, it's funny because originally I had plans to start up again in 2 weeks, but then I had to move something around that I was planning for after my first couple streams. So actually, I'm coming back a week early. So next Saturday at 7 o'clock. Sorry, I'm getting the times mixed up. Come over into my channel. I'm going to have some very special guests. And we're going to be talking about the original film, The Dark Crystal, and the guests are Phil and Sydney from the Trial by Stone podcast, which, if you know Dark Crystal, you know that's a Dark Crystal podcast. I've been listening to them for a while. They've really been like great as far as extending my sort of fandom for Dark Crystal Age of Resistance and everything, because I was really bummed after it got canceled, but their podcast has been a lot of fun, and so they graciously agreed to come on and talk about the movie with me. So tune in for that next week, and then after that I still have plans to go ahead and do streams on I've had a brain fart. I
believe one is Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, the first one is going to be Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. I'm doing that with Lady Triple.
Such a good movie.
And then and then after that, why am I drawn by? Hold on, let me just bring up my schedule. I was so focused on what I had. Okay, all right, so. Yeah, that's going to be Pirates of the Caribbean. Then on the third week that I'm back, I'll be talking about The Green Knight with Mike Clark and Blue Lemon Tree. So I've got stuff planned for the next 3 weeks. So go ahead and stop on by. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I don't know those people from the Trial by Stone podcast, but like I really look forward to, I look forward to it.
Yeah, they're great. Because Phil has been great, because I actually reached out to him about like when I was first doing Dark Crystal episodes on my channel, and he was very nice to just write back and say, yeah, I'll I saw some of that, I'll tune in for the next one, and then as soon as I got in touch with Sydney about coming on, like she has to be one of the sweetest people in the world, because we just started talking nonstop about a whole bunch of different fandom stuff we both love. So yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Sweet. Well, Here Be Dragons has got a couple of different things lined up. Next week, I'll be having Emily of the Eerie and my friend John from Gold Team back there. We are each of us experienced Dungeons and Dragons players and dungeon masters, and we're going to just be having a conversation about what makes a good player and what makes a good game master, and like what do you need to do to be good at it at both ends. Oh, Obi. Hey, buddy, it's nice to see you. I'm glad you joined. I see Obi all the time on Twitter. Very active on Twitter. Where was I? Oh yeah. So we're talking next week just Dungeons and Dragons and like how to bring your A game to that game, no matter what part of it you're doing. Some of it is going to be like how not to be bad at it. But yeah, just three people who are longtime players and dungeon masters talking about the habits that are good and the habits that are bad to cultivate, to get the most out of your experience. The week after that, I believe, are we doing Visions again? Are we doing Visions?
Yeah, I think that's what we...
Star Wars Visions?
I thought we were doing What If.
Oh, I don't think... Okay, full disclosure, I don't think I want to do What If. Like...
Okay, staff meeting.
I mean, seriously. That show has just, like, it's fine, but it has not gotten me to the point where I want to devote a 2-hour conversation to it. So, yeah, I think we're going to do Visions. We might do Rebels then Visions. It's going to depend, Nessie, on which one of the two you'd rather do. Would you rather do Rebels or Visions? Because if you'd rather do
Rebels.
Okay. Well, then, so it'll be Dungeons and Dragons next week. The week after that, Rebels. The week after that, Visions, and then we'll be wrapped up with Visions. And yeah, okay, cool. Well, there you have it. Is there anything else? Oh yes, I have a gaming channel. I play every Thursday. This last week I did Tuesday. Probably going to do it again this week. I'm currently playing a game called Fallout New Vegas, but I'm also wanting to start this brand new game called I think it's called Lords and Villains, but it's not like villains, it's villains. It's spelled weird, and I think it more or less means villagers, and it's like a relaxed city building, but like medieval city. Anyway, I might do that on Tuesdays, and then Thursdays will be for what do you call it? Fallout New Vegas. Anyway, I digress. That's the gaming channel. Yeah, I think that's it for the mid-roll, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. John, what's so great about Katara?
She's kick-ass, and like I just love
all the characters are kick-ass.
Well, to varying degrees. I think she's the most kick-ass, but no, I don't know. I love the whole the waterbending thing is so visually beautiful, and I just I don't know. I just love the way she sort of interacts with all the different characters, and I really honestly sort of really loved her from back in season 1 because she made such a strong impression in that season, especially with the whole her arc leading up to the end of that season where she had to prove herself. And so it's just been great to continue to see her journey and with the things that she struggled with. And this season was so heartbreaking with the, sorry, I just had a beep on my phone. It was so heartbreaking, like when she had to blood bend that first time, and like that was just so like I hated seeing her reaction to the fact that she had just done that, and then to watch her go through the pain of trying to avenge her mother, and going through and seeing the dark places that she went, in search of vengeance before she ultimately decided to go about a different way. Which, by the way, I'm sorry, but in that episode, the guy like, you can take my mother. That seems fair.
Yeah.
I was almost a little bit bummed this season just about the fact that I felt that she at times was a little bit more of a sort of tag along to other people's character journeys than I would like, even though she did get very good like sort of episodes that were devoted to her. But I kind of changed my mind on that once she took control of the fight with Azula, and then she ended up defeating her. Then I was like, okay, that's what I want to see. But
yeah,
I got worried for a second that she was just there to tag along with Zuko.
I see.
But
No,
thankfully thankfully that was not the case, and that was a great fight scene, and the way that she she dealt with Azula, with the water bending and the ice and everything was just amazing. So like, yeah, if like there's any honest complaint I have about like where her character stood at the end of this, it's that I just want to continue with her story. So that's why I think that it's probably inevitable that I have to get the graphic novels, because I just need to keep going. But the show started off, she was my favorite character, and I think a lot of that was because the season that was most devoted to her was season 1, because that's I think where she gets the strongest like character arc throughout the whole thing. But she continued to be great throughout the rest of the show, and yeah, so
okay.
Yeah.
What about Nessie? Nessie, do you have a favorite character from this series? And is it Katara?
Well, I mean, I love Katara. I love Zuko. No Top is probably your favorite, but I can't really say that I have a favorite. It's the ensemble together that really just does it for me, because they just blend and support one another, and the sum is greater, than each of its parts. So,
what about you, Yogi? Do you have a favorite character?
Or Appa? Appa may be my
okay,
favorite.
Appa.
Yes,
specifically the Appa that's standing up and has raised armor with 6 swords.
Yes, with the.
Where did they get that?
I mean, that was amazing. Okay.
Where did they get that?
Samurai armor was like fantastic.
It was pretty good. No, I think my favorite.
I mean, honestly, when he and Momo were just talking, like it's just like
I'm sick of this guy always trash talking to me. You want to go right now? Yeah, I'm just.
What a weird episode.
I loved it.
That was great. Like, honestly, that was when I was like, all right, I've gone from really liking the show to loving it, because that's the kind of trippy stuff that always wins me over.
It was kind of like a mini Ember Island Players, in the sense that it was this kind of like very goofy episode, more like almost a clip show with like these random vignettes of weird stuff happening, sprinkled in with some serious character stuff. Very similar to Ember Island Players, and it comes right before a great showdown episode. So they kind of did that twice.
No, I loved it so much that I typed it into Slack when the whole exchange. Momo, did you hear something? No, but I said something.
That is a pretty good episode. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe I do really like Aang Even though he's your protagonist, he's supposed to be like the least. He's not the funniest because Sokka's the funniest, and he's not the most badass because like Katara is the most badass, and he doesn't have the greatest character arc because Zuko has the greatest character arc.
Toph is the most badass.
Toph is Toph is the most bad. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But Katara is the most like maybe driven to do.
Yeah, she is very driven,
morally centered.
Mm-hmm.
I think Zuko is probably my favorite, honestly. I
mean,
really like, especially
wrong.
season 3 Zuko is great. Later half, all the field trips are great. I'm kind of curious to know if you have like a favorite Zuko field trip, because I think mine is probably the firebending masters.
Boiling Rock for me,
because it's got dragons. The Boiling Rock is pretty good. It's like Prison Break, but with the Fire Nation.
Yeah. I mean, Katara's arc, her field trip is just heartbreaking. You know,
I have conflicting thoughts about like that episode actually, because
the Southern Raiders or the Firebending Masters.
The Southern Raiders, because like that's the thing about Zuko's arc, like in the latter half of the season. He obviously is, he is trying to be good and he has very good intentions, but I feel like he still does some things that are a bit on the self-serving side. Like, he's taking Katara on that journey to make good with her, and so that she'll be nice to him, basically. I'm like, are you really doing this for the right reasons?
So she kept threatening to kill him. I understand that he tries to get into her good graces, but I also like that in that episode, the Southern Raiders, he's still like a Zuko hard ass, because he has absolutely no like trouble understanding the reason why Katara wants to go on this mission, whereas Aang is like, doesn't accomplish anything. Sokka at least got Hakoda back from prison, and Suki, and Aang and Zuko learned about firebending, but Katara's mission accomplishes like absolutely nothing. It's just a completely needless risk, revenge, and Zuko gets it. He's like, yeah, of course we got to take this guy down. Like, he's very committed to this whole operation, which shows that he didn't really change as a character. It's just his priorities or like his motivations change, but he's still the same person. Like, he's still like, yeah, of course you're gonna get revenge on this dude. He killed your fucking mom. Why wouldn't you hunt him down? Aang's like, my entire civilization got wiped out, but I'm not over here trying to kill every firebender I see. So it's kind of like
the timing of it is like, this is not the time to be going off to do
like,
that.
This is the time they have.
Yeah, but the only reason it's occurring now is because Zuko was like, I got to do something to make her like me.
Right.
Yeah. Like, without him, she wouldn't have known. Though you'd think Zuko might be like, my dad's trying to destroy the entire world. Maybe we should do that first.
Needs to happen for the story to get where it is in the finale.
Yes.
For Zuko to look at Katara and say, you want to come with me to take down Azula? And Katara's like,
oh, I agree with that.
And Zuko, for his part, understood he needed to do something to change Katara's mind about him. That was part of him making his amends. That's what all these are. This episode also has a couple of my favorite little, maybe just moments or lines. There's something Aang says about, forgiving, and Zuko's like, that's the same as doing nothing. He's like, no, it's easy to do nothing. It's hard to forgive. And that is a very poignant line. But maybe even more poignant is when Zuko goes to talk to Sokka about Katara, and Sokka is laying there with a rose in his mouth. Well, hello!
I knew you were going there. I knew you were going there.
How not, dude? It's one of my, it's so funny.
Which, and the whole thing with...
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nessie.
The whole thing, okay, between Katara and Zuko, the thing that just really just sticks with her, like that one little sticking stone was about they had previously bonded about their mothers, and then he turned around and betrayed them. They'd had that bonding moment. It was almost, it was there earlier, and this is kind of like the payoff for that from way back in season 2. Where, okay, we can't do anything. Let me help you with your mother. Let me help you get some closure about your mother.
And maybe that'll connect better for me when I rewatch the show and I'm not taking breaks between seasons. It's entirely possible that'll happen. I do have to interject with the whole thing with Sokka in that episode. Like I'm watching the thing with Suki, like, you know, trying to sneak into his tent and stuff. I'm like, this is a Nickelodeon show, right?
Did you need to talk to Sokka too? Nope, not me.
Yeah, you can even tell that, like, they have Toph even made them like a really thick, like, soundproof earth tent.
Yeah. Yeah, they were going to
She
get.
just wanted to get some sleep, man.
It's
That was-
like we're
They were
not
gonna
really
have-
being subtle about this.
No.
Someone
I mean,
else-
you could say they were just gonna, you know, they were just making out.
Yeah, they
Kissing
were
is
just-
fine on
they were
Nickelodeon.
just snogging.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
PG-13, I'm sure.
It is a very lighthearted moment in an otherwise very depressing episode. But yeah, it's a good. But yeah, my personal favorite Zuko field trip is the Firebending Masters, and I think it is kind of
Talk about
bullshit
the
that
dragons.
Toph didn't get one. But she's been with the crew.
She
for
also was
that long.
not. She was also not directly wronged by Zuko the same way the other three were, because as you say, she wasn't there until season 2. So all that crazy stuff that Zuko did chasing Team Avatar in season 1, those are the people he really needs to make amends with.
Yeah, they also make a joke about it in the, I think it's episode, the Phoenix King, where Toph says, "Well, everyone else got to go on a life-changing field trip with
Yeah.
Zuko. Now it's my turn." And then it's just like she like pours her heart out, and Zuko's like, "Listen, I think we should really focus on finding Aang." And it's just, come on, Zuko, you couldn't at least give her like a, "Oh, that's rough," like you
That's
did with
rough, buddy.
Sokka, but nothing. Yeah, you know.
That's rough.
It's like worst vacation ever.
Yeah.
Worst field
Also, I love how
trip
they're literally hanging out in like his own family's like family mansion on like this like island for
Ember Island.
royalty, and you're telling me no one recognizes the dude with a huge scar on his face who
Yeah.
lives in
Well,
the
I think
same
it's
house?
kind of-
But
Yeah, it's kind of cool
Yeah.
though that he takes both parties to that beach house and they both kind of do some soul searching and whatever. So that just kind of
Yeah.
reinforces how special.
I always
it
like
is.
this is a thing that goes throughout the entire show. I'm always like, shouldn't more people like recognize Zuko just based of? Wouldn't it be like wildly known that he's got a fucked up face? But I guess people with burn scars aren't an uncommon sight in
Yeah.
the world.
So it's not really clear from what you see just on screen, but an Agni Kai is fought to until one firebender burns the other one. Like actually burns them. That's how you lose an Agni Kai. Not by death. Like Zuko very nearly did it to Admiral Shao back in season 1. He hits the ground instead. But yeah, that's an Agni Kai is over when one bender burns the other one.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
we'll get to that in a minute. I want to say
I will say though, if they hadn't been, super recognizable, up till that point, it's a good thing that play came at the end of the series.
He was watching the play, and he has the scar on his face, and the kid walks up and he's like, "Hey, your scar's on the wrong side." Like, why would you watch that play? It is so risky. Like, you're gonna get found out.
Like cool
This is
cosplay,
insane.
dude. Cool cosplay.
I mean, it is at that point you gotta give it that. There always comes the point where you gotta give a bit of like, this is a children's show.
I'm gonna
leeway.
push you in a certain direction, Yogi. Talk to me about the dragons.
Oh, the dragons. Ooh.
Brad and
Well,
Shaw.
Red and Shaw are obviously like their design is inspired from Eastern mythology, Eastern dragons, like most of the show is, but they breathe fire, which is a thing that comes from Western dragons. So they're kind of a marriage of these of Western and Eastern influences, kind of like the whole show is in a way, which is cool. And obviously, it also makes sense for the dragons to be the first firebenders. And
that fire comes from the breath,
fire comes from the breath, not the muscle.
Trying to-
not
Like
the
the
rage,
energy.
but the breath.
Not the rage.
breath.
And it's the different colors in the fire. It's my favorite, probably my favorite scene, I would say. One of my favorite scenes, definitely, in all of Avatar is the fire thing.
Cyclone.
The twist
Yes.
with them being actual dragons.
and all the colors.
Yeah. It's not the
Would
most
be
surprising
right,
twist in the
like-
world. I think it got me when I was like a kid, but I don't think it's supposed to be like. It's not the point that it's a huge twist. It's just it's just really, really. I mean, the animation is great. The design on the dragons, the way they dance with them in the background.
And then the fact that like that we have one red one and we have one blue one, and in you know in Aang's fight, I mean not Aang, excuse me, in Zuko's fight
Zuko.
scene with his sister, you know he's got the red fire and she's got the blue fire. And
Yeah, they also the dragons from his dream in season 2 were also red and blue.
mm-hmm.
So
So
it's,
that's just like a recurring theme there that they kept. Plus the
Very
dance, man. You gotta do the moves.
got to do the moves.
Dude.
I always feel bad for the waterbenders that like, you know, the like the Anomet have sky bison and the firebenders have dragons, and then the earthbenders have the big moles, and the waterbenders just have the moon. It's like everyone gets a cool animal companion except the waterbenders. It's just they have a moon and like 2 koi fish in a pond, which is kind of, you know, it's not that cool, but they're cool enough. They don't need that.
Yeah.
I just want to go back, since you know you guys have been talking about the dragons. That episode has another piece of my favorite dialogue, which is, you know.
Oh, I know what it is.
Now,
I already know what it is.
now that you know of our distance, you can never leave. Just kidding, but seriously, don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I also
That's
has
what I
another
thought
one
you
of
were
my
gonna say.
favorite lines when they have the Indiana Jones like Tomb Raider kind of adventure, and it's the booby trap, and then Aang's like, "You had to pick up the glowing egg, didn't you?"
Yeah, after hours. Yeah.
Yeah, I love sassy Aang. We don't get that much sassy Aang, but when it is there, it's really good. Especially when he
See,
interacts with Zuko.
this again is what's so great about like the shift halfway through the season where Zuko gets thrown in. So it's like it's a gold mine of new sources of comedy, and that just is what makes it so absolutely entertaining.
They managed to give him a really good dynamic with all of the different characters.
I love the Dragon of the West Uncle Iroh reveal in this episode too, because it was kind of like Zuko was feeling kind of bad at the beginning of it, like, you know, that's kind of like a bad history with the Firebenders. Yeah, we killed all the dragons, like all, you know, you other you know, benders have their spirit animals and they protected them and loved them and cared for them. And what do we do? Oh, we killed all of ours for sport.
It's a very Fire Nation thing to do.
Well, Fire Nazi Nation.
Yeah.
They're really more like Imperial Japan.
Well,
Yeah.
how-
I mean, to be
how
fair,
do you
their
know?
prisons are much nicer than the Nazi ones.
Yeah.
Okay, put me up full screen for a
then-
second, guys.
All right, hold on. John needs the center
Yeah,
stage.
Obi just put this up on Twitter. I don't know if you'll be able to.
You're probably.
Oh,
There you
yeah,
go.
that's it. Well, hello.
no.
Yeah, listening to Steven Stark, Jodie, and John Webster talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender, like.
Yeah. I'm glad you're having a good time, Obi.
I love the pose too. Like that's. I mean, Sokka, he knows how to.
Look,
you know,
the
just say
ladies
it.
love some Sokka.
I actually, I mean, I'm not sure if this is a weird thing, if other people had this, but when I was a kid, I sometimes had crushes on like animated people,
Sure.
and Sokka was definitely one of them.
Right.
A little bit when I was like 10, 12-ish. I don't even know how old I was when that show came out. But
Okay, so
You don't have to hide it, Jodie. It's fine if you.
I was young. It came out in 2006, I think, so I was 8 when it came out. But when it aired in Germany, it was like...
I'm going to give each person a chance to pick their topic again before the end. I'm going to start with mine. So, I just want to talk about the final Agni Kai, because I think from a storytelling and execution standpoint, the fight between Zuko and Azula is god dang beautiful and heartbreaking. From the music, the sort of melancholy really slow-paced music that's over the top of it. The juxtaposition of the orange versus blue, because they're on the color wheel, they're opposites. Zuko and Azula in this point are opposites. And we're seeing Azula at her lowest because of how unraveled she's getting, and really seeing Zuko in the best form we've ever seen him. There is a single shot where Azula makes a huge, flame burst forward, and Zuko does this sort of, orange fire circle around him thing, and you get an overhead shot of the big blue with it looks almost like a flower. God, it is incredible. And the thing is, it's so sad at the same time, because Azula is just as abused as Zuko is. Now, her natural talents made it so that her dad liked her, but that meant that she had to be the perfect one at all times. And the expectations for her were up here, which is why when the first time we ever meet her, she says, almost perfect isn't good enough. And here we are at the end, seeing the toll that has taken on her psyche, where she has no one left around her.
Can we talk about her mom?
And then at the end of the fight, it's badass to watch Katara win that fight. But the aftermath of that, where she's chained and spewing fire out of rage and then just breaks down crying, is one of the most heartbreaking things this whole show has to offer. Because at the end of all of that, I'm like, that is a horrible, horrible person, but I have pity for her. And that's not something that's easy to do. So I love that scene. It's probably one of the reasons I hold the especially the back half of season 3 in such high regard, is because that's a microcosm of what they're doing with the whole story, but just it's the most beautiful scene, in my opinion. You talked about the scene with the two dragons and the fire tornado. The final Agni Kai is my favorite thing from the whole.
It's beautiful. It is beautiful.
The music's also my favorite track.
And I was reading up on it too. They actually, for these final episodes, they switched over to performing the music with an actual orchestra, which I can tell it just hits different. And the fact that there isn't an actual soundtrack out for this show really pissed me off, and I went to go look.
It is criminal. It is on Spotify, I think. I think the Agni Kai one is on Spotify. But yeah, it's no excuse.
Yeah.
Because especially like some of the I think it's called the peace theme, which is the main theme that they play at the end. It's just so beautiful. Some of the best music in any show ever. Yeah. I didn't know that they never came out with a soundtrack. That's kind of.
I think I read something that said that the composer is working on putting something together in the near future. So hopefully that comes to pass. But I'll be buying a whole bunch of Avatar stuff now.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, that's what I wanted to talk about. Just wanted to make sure I got some Agni Kai love in there, because it is my personal favorite scene. We got just over 20 minutes left. So whoever wants to take their lead, go ahead.
Yeah, that's it.
Hold on, let me just, like this shot here is so maybe beautiful. My favorite in the whole dang show.
Very good. Also, maybe another thing about the Agni Kai I think that's great is how they cut it, how they keep cutting between the Agni Kai and the Ozai versus Aang, because they're two very different fights. And the airships, yeah, because
and also Iroh and
Iroh, yeah, it's like the whole thing.
Oh, it's so good, so good.
And you have Azula and Zuko. Obviously, they have history together. It's a very personal fight. It's very somber, and it's not very. I mean, the choreography and everything is great, obviously, but it's not like it's more about the emotion than the music. And then you cut to Ozai and Aang, and Ozai they don't really have that kind of relationship that Azula and Zuko has. Like, it's literally the first time they ever even see each other when they're about to like kick each other's ass.
No,
So it's
that's
like,
exactly why it was a good move to intercut all these things.
yeah, because you get the
couldn't just-
spectacle of the Aang Ozai fight, but you get the emotion from the other one. So that's
exactly,
why. That's what I
because
wanted to
the Aang Ozai fight is kind of like the Neo and Agent Smith.
Yeah,
the
like he's
Matrix
doing
Revolutions.
Well,
Ozai's
like it's
shirtless, and it's much more like
it's not going to be emotional
bombastic.
on its own because there's
No.
no personal stakes between those two characters. So it's
like
But-
it's perfect
the whole
to mix
like
everything together.
But
that's that my thing that I would maybe like to talk about is really quickly even like the stakes, because like the stakes with the Azula Zuko fight are kind of set up throughout ever since season 2, whereas the stakes with the Ozai fight, it's literally like 2 episodes prior to the finale. Zuko's like, oh yeah, by the way, my dad wants to destroy the entire world, so maybe we should, like they established the stakes of this fight very late in the season.
Yeah,
It's not
but-
built
but it-
towards the same way as the Azula Zuko one is.
But it's also a little bit earlier that they start to layer in this idea that Aang doesn't believe that violence will be the way.
Right.
And
Well,
those are actually, if there are personal stakes in that fight, that's
Yeah.
what it is for
between
Aang.
Aang and his conscience.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what I was going to bring up, because he is fighting, but he's also fighting that inner battle because, he has to put, as the older Avatar said, the Airbender said, you have to put your own needs and wants and desires up below the needs and desire, the needs of the world. You have to sacrifice your personal beliefs for the betterments. So that he's able to find a better way or another way.
Yeah. Have you seen
So
the
are we going
meme?
to talk about the space turtles?
Yes. Have you seen the meme though of like the 4 avatars? Like it shows what Avatar Kuruk, and it's like you must actively shape your destiny, and it shows Avatar Roku, and he's like, only with decisive action can you achieve what you want. And you see Avatar Yang Chen. I can't remember exactly what she says, and then it shows Avatar Kyoshi. It's like, kill that MFer.
Yeah.
That's the Kyoshi style. Yeah.
That is the Kyoshi way.
It's
But-
fascinating to think that like Kyoshi was reborn into, first Roku, but then into Aang, who is such a different
Yeah,
person.
But I really did love seeing all that because they're all pushing him in the direction of do what's necessary, take him out. And I like the fact that Aang really sticks to what he believes is right, even in the face of all these past lives. You're telling him you have no other option.
Yeah.
He just keeps looking for it, and I find that very admirable about him.
That's true. And even if some people don't like the whole lion turtle thing, I think the outcome is still the outcome of him not killing the Firelord is still preferable to basically the message to kids being, some people you just gotta murder.
Yeah.
I think it's more powerful for him to be kept alive.
The whole spirit bending thing is a little Deus Ex Machina, but
literally in a way,
not
because the lion
crazily
turtle's
so.
like the closest thing we have to like a god in this universe. But I always kind of defended by thinking that the universe itself has always kind of been a character in the show. Like this whole talk about the balance in the universe and being like at peace with the balance and everything. So for to me, it always felt like the universe was kind of stepping in, like, hey, Aang, I got this, and kind of doing that. So I think it makes more sense because it is a spiritual show for this to happen, to be like the universe itself kind of helped out.
Was there ever a mention of a lion turtle?
Yes, in the library. In One Sheet Hong's library, Aang was like, "Hey, check out this lion turtle." That's it.
Yep.
That's the only one I can remember.
Mentions offhandedly of like, oh, that must be bigger than a lion turtle. Like there's a few mentions of lion turtle.
Okay, that's enough for me. My only hesitance about that was that it felt like it just completely came out of nowhere. But if there's at least a mention or two of a lion turtle earlier in
They could have set it up
the series, then I'm fine. Like I'm good with it.
I think if they had just one more like appearance of the lion turtle, maybe in like a dream or something,
Or
they
like-
could have really
or like
salvaged
even
it. And I
Speaking
also
of a
think that,
legend, like a legend about something a lion turtle did.
and it was also just like the thing with obviously the lion turtle was a tool that the writers kind of had to come up with because they can't kill someone in Avatar because it's a show for kids. Like the network just wouldn't allow them to kill Ozai. So keeping that in mind, they did the best they could. Even though I think even if they were like allowed to kill Ozai, I still think having Aang not do it is ultimately like a better outcome because it's more interesting. Because it is kind of like, yeah, we killed him and now it's fine, it's solved. It's kind of
It's not great.
great. It's not great, yeah.
And
I'd
the
rather
thing
have
is,
him be in prison.
Nickelodeon does this thing where it'll show you a person buried under a rock, but you'll hear like the groan, so that you know they're not dead because they're also not moving. Like, just watch the show again and remove the groans, and you'll see dead bodies everywhere.
I mean, there are some people who are definitely dead, like those people when the airships crash in the Day of Black Sun. Those people are dead. And then there's also
Tarth punches a dude in the face during the finale when she's wearing the metal suit. She punches a guy in the face so hard that he goes flying out the door. I'm like,
or when Aang fuses with the spirit, the ocean spirit.
yeah,
Those people are dead. But
they're dead.
a lot of people cite that as like, well, Aang's killed people before. Why does he make such a big deal about the Firelord? But that was like the ocean spirit killing people. It was kind of possessing Aang, so this doesn't count.
Combustion Man is dead, but he kind of blew himself up.
But he still died on screen. That's like the only on-death screen that's like almost undeniable. But he was but why could they kill the Combustion Man but not Ozai? I guess because Aang did it. Like you can't have your main character literally just like murder someone. How would you even do that? Like, it would have been weird to like have that on
if
Aang's
a character
conscience.
like dies because of the circumstances they're in.
Yeah, he blew himself up. That's true.
They can get like that's okay. It's directly like saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna murder you now."
It would have been so strange if Aang just kind of like killed Ozai and then immediately we cut to like Sokka being like, "Oh my god, that was amazing," and everyone's happy and they have the celebrations. Like he just killed a man. Maybe it's he's in prison. It's fine.
So John, Nessie, anything else? Anything you guys want to make sure we touch on before the end?
The airship battle.
Okay. Airship's nice.
I mean, the whole. I can't believe the captain remembered my birthday.
That scene where just randomly gathered, we're going into a battle. Oh, everyone randomly gathered for cake and ice cream. And it worked.
Your delivery is really good on that too, Yogi. Like,
yeah.
Really good.
I think it's even more sad because it's like he really does care.
And then they're in the ocean. Like, happy birthday.
At least they lowered it before they did it.
Yeah, but just the scene where they are heading.
But speaking of like what we were just talking about, that's a point where I'm like, wait, are all those people dead? And it's like, oh
fine.
no,
They're floating.
They're in the water.
They're close to shore. They were close to shore. They were loud.
They could swim. It's fine. It's fine.
We saw them swimming.
Like sorry, but I have to. That reminds me of what we were talking about, guys, on the Star Wars Rebels stream when Chopper just tosses that droid on the ship, and then we get a shot of it landing on the ground, and it's fine. It's like bullshit. No way that droid survived.
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
Small talk. Yeah.
Maybe we could talk about that a little bit. How it's a very funny season, especially those earlier episodes.
It also like I'm still on the airship battle. Like,
the airship battle.
Like it warms my Taka heart. That whole like Suki's great. Don't get me wrong. Very happy.
Suki's great.
Suki is awesome character.
Don't you dare say but. She is awesome.
She's awesome.
She's awesome,
I like
and
Toph better. I like Toph better. You know, it is what it is, and to see that sort of like the way that they take care of each other, like it's a small thing, but when Sokka and Toph jump from one airship to the other,
Toph can't
Sokka
see.
covers her because she can't see what's coming. So he's the one that covers over her head, you know, to protect her from falling debris. Oh, just
yeah.
God,
I mean,
I love
them
it.
like
I love
holding.
everything about this finale. Like some
He also
shows,
lost his space sword. To
yeah.
save her.
I mean,
Fight,
Sokka can't bend.
Sword.
Yeah, Sokka can't bend, but he comes out as this like great organizing, commander. You know, he puts the things that he learned from his master
Yeah.
about the art of war and how to, battlefield command. Which he flubs with his father's there, making him like extremely nervous. But when he's not, when he's off on his own, he just like comes into his own.
Yeah.
When he's not trying to impress his dad with his battle plans or what have you.
Yes, Sokka and Toph are a good pairing. I always also like. I really like. We don't get this enough. I feel like we should have gotten at some point during the show, but I really like when Sokka and Aang team up, because like on their own, Aang is very wise and like spiritual, and Sokka's like he's very clever and he's a tactician. But when those two are together, it's like they're like a combined one brain cell between the two of them. I don't know what it is, but as soon as Sokka and Aang are just by themselves, they are just complete idiots.
Yeah,
like they're just teenage boys
hanging out.
It's that whole episode where the runaway one where Toph and Katara have a fight, and Sokka's like, I'm going to send a letter to Katara, say it's from Toph, and Aang's like, oh man, Sokka, your genius continues to impress me. And like, you guys are such idiots. It's just, it's great. And also like
now we gotta try. Now we should try. Sending a letter from Toph to Katara. I think we're going to run into the same problem.
I mean, does he have hockey at this point? Is this where the letter hockey? Does he have it at this point? Is he sending letters between the
And it's also like in earlier seasons when Sokka's giving Aang like relationship advice and all that stuff. It's just whenever those two are just. And I mean, I have made this experience. You can be like perfectly wise and spiritual or like clever, but when you put just a bunch of teenage boys together in the room by themselves, they drop like the IQ drops like by 70%.
Yeah,
it's so
easily.
funny. I would have loved to have a whole episode of those two just having to solve a problem by themselves.
It would be hilarious. My saying is basically like, if you left me and when I was a teenager, if you left me and my brothers alone for 10 minutes, we'd figure out how to break an anvil.
And also, speaking of Sokka this season, and of like the funnier moments, the beard, the dad / therapist beard is comedy gold. Wang fire.
This is
one of my favorite gifts out of all the shows when he goes, Flameo, Hotman, Flameo. It's so funny. I guess we didn't touch on like those earlier episodes that much, like the painted lady and the runaway, like all the individual. I never noticed that before though, how like the later half of the season is kind of like the Zuko field trips, and the first half is kind of like the character progression highlight episodes.
Mm-hmm.
You got the Katara one with the polluted lake, you got the Toph one with the gambling, and the Sokka one with the Swordmaster, and then the what was the Aang one? I guess the Awakening was the Aang one.
Aang goes to school was what I
Aang goes to the Footloose one. Yeah, that's true.
And then Zuko goes to the beach. Yeah, they're all.
And the beach.
Like
we didn't talk about the beach.
It's so cool.
The beach.
Aang is teaching
the last few minutes of the beach episode. I was just.
And they trashed that guy's house. Insane. Oh no, you mean when they're on the fire? You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
when we're actually digging deep into like Zuko and
your villain.
The others.
The beach is probably like the most anime episode that they've ever made.
Yeah, most animes have a beach episode.
And also just like the way that it's shot when there's the shot when Zuko takes off his shirt,
Like, yes,
and it's
and
got the birds
are
in the
flying
background.
by and stuff.
And also like that episode must be like, I mean, it was confusing for me when I watched it.
I'm-
Very
I'm
horny episode for like a children's show. You get like cleavage and stuff, and like all the like, not to get too gross here, but it is very like, I guess geared more towards the teen audience than the little children. Or maybe that's just me, but I also felt like when the Lo and Lee, oh my god, they did not hold
with
back.
their bathing suits.
Yeah. Swing low, sweet chariots. Like they've got fucking. They did
quite
put that in the
sure.
show. Those
quite
things were
sure they
dangling
were
like down
fine
to
in
their
their
knees.
day.
I mean, I respect it, obviously, body positivity, but it's just a weird thing to have in a kid show. These like dangling old lady. It's just. Yeah, the beach is a weird episode. I even remember when I was a kid. I think it was too weird.
I'm watching and I'm like, wait, when does this take place?
Just on vacation, it's just part of that. That's what I'm saying. It's like the meandering sort of first half.
It's like, they're playing volleyball?
Yeah, no, what's it called? It's not called Fireball, is it? It's called something else. But yeah, it's just like they're hanging out on like a beach, and then you have Aang's doing Footloose. The first episode is very low stakes. For it being like following up the whole like, there it is.
This shot
There
right
it
here,
is.
just wind in his hair and like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it's still also that episode has my favorite scene is Azula trying to be a normal human being
Right?
at the
Like-
party.
And
Is
failing
Crash
hard.
party.
fantastic. Yeah.
It's so Mean Girls, it's like Mean Girl, October
Yeah.
3rd, right? Mean Girl Day, and
I
that whole house party just had like that kind of vibe, It
definitely seems
the
like,
royal family,
Yeah.
the royal family of the Fire Nation is coming to your party, and they're just like wallflowers, outcasts the whole time.
It is
Oh, but
definitely
they're-
geared more
They're
towards the
Chan and
teenage.
Ranjan, two of the most important teenagers in the Fire Nation. Don't you know who we are? We're Chan and Ranjan.
It's so, how does no one know who? I mean, they don't have television, so I guess it makes sense. But it's like, yeah, the
I mean, with
episode
everything
is.
else in the episode, I wouldn't have been surprised to see a TV.
Yeah, that's my thing. Because when I was a kid, I really didn't like the beach. It almost like made me cringe because of all the like romance stuff in it and all the like
Oh, it's so funny
teenage.
though.
But when I was a teenager, I really
So
liked it. But
cringe.
as like a 10-year-old, when I watched it, I was like, oh,
Okay,
oh,
fair enough.
oh.
I forget how young you are sometimes, Yogi.
Yeah.
You're
I mean,
like
I
half
didn't
my
watch it
age.
when it came out, but I think I watched like bits of it because they obviously had reruns on German television. So I kept like an episode here, an episode there. And then one weekend, I was really sick. I think I had like a stomach flu. And I basically spent the whole weekend in bed. And it was the same weekend that Nickelodeon ran like a whole marathon where they showed all 3 seasons over one weekend. So it was the first time I actually watched the whole show from beginning to end. And I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. I was so hooked.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well
Well,
worth
guys-
being sick over.
But no, I mean the end of that episode is just really great because that was like once I started like watching in the season for the stream. I think the first night I finished off on that episode, and I was like, oh, but now they're really digging deep into the characters. I want to keep going. But yeah, so I really enjoyed that one. But then, of course, the next episode is, the Avatar
Yeah,
and
the
the
Day of
Firelord,
Black.
and which
Yeah.
so it's like, yeah, this is really shifting in the high gear.
And then you have the Day of Black Sun, which I guess we didn't talk about too much.
A little bit.
Very good. Very
like
good.
it's hard to fit it all in. Like
Yeah.
this season is just
Like a
chock-
lot.
Yeah,
It's
honestly,
a-
I what I was thinking about today as I was watching the 4-part finale, I was like, you could do a whole stream just digging into that finale, and same thing with the Day of Black Sun, and other parts of the season. So yeah, like
Yeah.
you said, Stephen, there's only so much you can fit in. But
The thing about the Day of Black Sun that I find was a good move on their part was that they kind of gave everyone the finale that everyone wants to see, where they bring all the characters back from the previous seasons. But then they also, like, the actual finale was just the core gang fighting it on their own. I think that was a really smart move to, like, give us both of that. They gave us, like, the fan servicey finale, and then they gave us the really good finale.
The best
as well.
line from the Day of Black Sun: "Pants are an illusion, and so is death."
It's really good.
Because it's, you know, in the swamp episode in season 2, he says, you know, separation is an illusion, and so is death. So we get pants are an illusion, and so is death. And I'm just like,
I was so delighted to see how many characters came back for that.
So many.
Yeah.
People
We
that
didn't
I
talk
was,
about.
I was not expecting to see it again, and now I'm like, okay, now even fewer of the, you know, I hate the term, but quote unquote filler episodes, you know, feel
they
like
mean
they're-
something.
yeah.
The side quest episode.
Mhm.
Yeah, they brought back the boulder.
And
Yeah.
Haru and
Mechanist.
Yeah.
You know,
Mechanist.
I mean, I love the
That was
boulder.
cool.
The boulder is great.
the boulder.
The boulder. You know, they actually wanted for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to voice the boulder,
Yeah.
but it didn't work out, like, scheduling wise. So they got, like, one of his friends. But
Yeah,
it's
they got
it's an
it's
actual
Mick
wrestler who does
Foley.
the voice. Mick
And
Foley.
funny if somebody comes out and like,
Oh,
yeah, and we
Nick
couldn't
did the
find
voice? Oh, cool.
yeah, and we couldn't find those people who were supposed to be in a canyon or something. So
You mean that, like, the Wilford Brimley, like, tour guide who broke all his limbs?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
But
think we
this
need those
was-
people.
The Black Sun episodes were like, okay, this is where the adults are coming in. You know, the adults are here kind of episode.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got all these adults from the show, you know, coming in to
It's another
plan this invasion.
another one of my Yogi season 3 nitpicks about the Day of Black Sun is I love that they made everyone eclipse glasses, and then when the eclipse happens, they pause and look at it. Like, that is your time window to do the operation you came to do. Why would you look at it? Just do your mission. You don't need to look at the sun. That's so
Everybody
pointless.
put your eclipse glasses on.
Yeah, it's like,
I
why?
I just found the
stare.
I just found the concept of everybody having eclipse glasses really funny.
It is
I
funny.
do
It's just
too.
like, why would you?
Yeah.
They just look at it like
Having glasses is great, but I'm with you, Yogi. Like, we have 8 minutes. Let's spend precious seconds looking at the eclipse.
Like, it's not like they need it. Like, you're not supposed to look at the sun at any time of day. So why would you need those glasses? Like, if you're not gonna look at it, those 8 minutes especially are the time. I think it's just one of those things where, like,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be funny if the mechanists made up eclipse glasses and everyone went like, yeah, that would be funny, and then they just didn't think about it
And the
anymore.
submarines and Sokka's original drawing for the submarines.
Made some modifications.
But like, it's so beautiful the way this show, you know, like, they establish the rules of their magic system,
And
and
then
it
the
continues to
submarine
grow throughout the entire series, but it always continues to abide by the rules that it set for itself in the beginning. And kudos, it allows the magic to be used in really interesting ways, but because it's so codified, you can look at it and go, yep, that makes sense. Yep, that makes sense. Bloodbending, yep, makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah,
The
there was
Earthbender
with
being able to-
bloodbending, they did have to put in that like caveat that you can only do it when there's a full moon, because otherwise it would have raised too many questions. Like, why
it's
doesn't
so
Katara
painful.
just fire the bloodbend like everyone, like Azula and Ozai and all that stuff? Even though they also introduced the aspect of, like, it being a very horrible thing to do to someone.
Yeah, I was actually very worried about her, you know, like leaning into that. So, and
The
the
dark
fact
side.
that, yeah, it's like
Well,
I didn't want her using that.
Don't all of the bending disciplines have like that extra I don't know if it's a level up or like a dark
I don't-
side to it, or just a
By the time you get
Yeah.
to the end of
Different
Legend of Korra, yes.
I mean, firebending, they have combustion bending, and then
And
earthbending, they have
lightning.
metal bending,
The lightning.
lightning bending, and then the earthbenders have
Mhm.
metal bending and
Metal
sand
bending.
bending. The airbender have nothing because there's only Aang, but in Legend of
Not
Korra
like-
they get some stuff.
Okay,
No
I was
spoilers.
wondering what the alternate version of the airbending was because I had one.
Let's just call it vacuum bending.
Vacuuming. Great.
Also, they can also float
Yeah, they
without gliders.
yeah,
I mean, they can't, but one of them
I
can.
mean, okay.
and can.
And can. No, and can. Yeah, the Legend of
It's
Korra
like
has a
the bubble and goes where it
lot
wants
of
to.
like special, a lot more special bending abilities. Some more stupid than others. But let's not get into the Legend of Korra. That's for another stream. Are you gonna
Yeah.
watch the Legend of Korra, John?
I will, but I'm gonna wait a while because I want to make sure I let
He wants to digest it.
I want this show to sit on its own.
Yes, you should probably
Yeah.
rewatch it first.
Well,
And then
the
go
thing
into
is,
the-
like, it definitely is adjacent, but Legend of Korra is different enough that I don't feel like it'll overlap too much. So whenever you're ready to get to it, let me know. I'll get into my rewatch because
Yeah.
I've seen Avatar: The Last Airbender literally dozens of times. Like, I think I've seen it 4 times since lockdown started.
Mhm.
Because
I
it's
just watched
it's a
season
comfort
3.
show for me, you know. I love it, and it's one of those that I can put on and I don't have to pay close attention because I just know what's going on.
Mhm.
But but Korra I've only seen once.
Me too. I have kind of like, I mean, it is a decent show, but I have no desire of rewatching it. Kind of like, it's just different. It's a different. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
I think
like,
I do want to rewatch it because it's been a long time and I don't remember. But what do you say we move on to say final thoughts about season 3 of Avatar? And I will throw it to our guest first. And Yogi, I know you're a big fan of the series as a whole, so just final thoughts on season 3 and on the show as a whole.
Okay. So season 3, as I said, second favorite season. Still very good. It's got my favorite. My favorite Zuko is season 3 Zuko.
Mhm.
It's got some of my favorite episodes: Avatar and the Firelord, the Firebending Masters. Some of my favorite jokes, some of my favorite gifs, and a great finale. So yeah, I love season 3, and I love the whole show. I've criticized some stuff obviously in the stream, but it's nitpicking at like the absolute highest level. Like it's you really have to.
Hey, we
Dig.
do that too. You're allowed to nitpick.
So yeah, so many things that I nitpick I haven't noticed until my like 9th rewatch, and at that point, it's kind of for me it's kind of very similar to the Lord of the Rings movies, where like I've seen them so many times that I've noticed so many like little things that are just funny. But it's kind of like when you're in a relationship for many years, at some point all the flaws you notice in your partner just make them more endearing. That's the same thing I feel like with Avatar. I just love it even more the more I watch it, even though if I notice some stuff that's like, oh, that's a bit weird, that's kind of, but it's fantastic, and I'm glad John enjoyed it because it is a great show, and it's always nice to agree with John on something. It happens so rarely.
Right.
So I'm glad we both like Avatar.
Nessie, final thoughts?
I mean, did this show stick the landing or what? I mean, and series television is hard, and finding an absolutely perfect arc throughout this entire series, and it just sticks the landing like a butterfly landing on a flower. It's just such a beautiful thing, and it's one of my favorite shows. It's becoming even more one of my favorite shows the more that I watch it. I watched this with my kids when they were little, when they were young. After school, Nickelodeon comes on. Okay, what's Aang doing today? And so it's kind of like we had that little both generations, because my son is quite a few years younger than my daughter, but they were both, enamored of the show. So it was something that I could do with them. And now watching it, rewatching it again as an adult, I just pick up more and more on it. I'm like, oh yeah, this is some gold right here. And it's survived, and it's going to be it's a classic, and it's going to continue to be a classic. So yeah. 100%. Don't sleep on the show.
Do not sleep on it. John,
Gotta get ready for those Avatar Studio things that they're gonna come out with on Paramount Plus.
hey man, I hope they're good. I hope they're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say I'm far more interested in what's going to come of those than the Netflix live action version because I pretty much just want, after seeing the show, I want the stuff that's coming from the creators of this show, not anywhere else. So, and plus, like, there's so much that was breathtakingly gorgeous about this show, through its animation and the way it was crafted and everything, that I remember I was actually, like, as I was watching the final battle between Aang and the Firelord, I was like, this is probably going to be so visually boring in live action, but in animation it looks gorgeous.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm trying to think of where I was going with that. Bottom line is I love this show. I definitely went on a journey with it, but now I can't wait to go back and rewatch it and get that whole cohesive experience together. And yeah, thank you, Stephen, for continuing to push me to.
Well, I never held a gun to your head, but in the 2 years we've been doing this together, or close to 2 years we've been doing this together, I have been like, and
then finally I was like, damn it, the only way I'm gonna make this happen is if we do streams on it. So I was like, Steven, you want to do the first season of Avatar next week? And you were like, yeah, can you fit it in? Like,
yes, yep. I did want to do that thing.
Yeah, I don't think the words had even gotten out of John's mouth before Stephen was like,
again,
yep.
One of my top 5 shows of all time.
Definitely. Might be number 1 for me, actually.
It might be like 1 or 2 for me. So it's like Game of Thrones, The Expanse, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Community, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I think. Probably my top 5. But I think Avatar is like 1 or 2. It's just so good. And it's one that I've seen it so many times, and it still just pulls at the old heartstrings every time. So my final thoughts are: season 3 is epic. It's visually stunning. The characters are put through the ringer once again. They're all given a chance to succeed. They're all given a chance to fail. We get to see sides of them we haven't seen before. Even just down to the music. John, I'm a little surprised you haven't mentioned the music. I guess you did a little bit, but like the music for this series is so good. I love everything about this show. Anyway, yeah, but I love it, and I will never not love it. And I thank the gods for this show, because I think it influenced an entire generation of kids into changing the way they view the world and themselves and the people around them. Aang showed millennials how to live their best lives.
That is very true. I've gotten a lot of good life lessons from watching it as a kid.
Right.
You definitely. Maybe that's another thing that we have. I mean, maybe you touched on this on like the other discussions about what a great show, just like value-wise. It's got so many great female characters. It's got such great stories about acceptance and being at peace, and about non-violence, and about even like stuff for kids, like anti-war, anti-imperialism, all this stuff in like this packaging of a fun, like Captain Planet superpower cartoon show. It's just like, it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
And even showing that, like, the show told, like, the Fire Nation has been the enemy, for 2 seasons, but then the 3rd season, it's like, you see Joe the rag picker, Firebender, Hotman, on the street. The kids in the school, They're just
Yeah, the
like
propaganda and
kids
stuff
everywhere.
as well. We
And the
didn't talk about that.
propaganda and whatever that's being fed into them, and they can't express themselves. That any creativity and expression is, frowned. You really get a lot of sympathy, for the Fire Nation people, so they're not just this blank, faceless enemy, that has to be destroyed at all. They're just people too. They're just another nation, and
Yeah, which is
and having memories of visiting the Fire Nation and teaching them their national dances that they are lost, their traditions that are lost. It was very heartwarming to me, even though that was the Footloose episode, but it had meaning.
What do you mean, even though that
I,
was the Footloose
I
episode?
love the Footloose
It
episode.
was great.
Everyone loves the Footloose.
I mean, when you say Footloose, I've got like Footloose because I don't care for it. But
it's
that
better than
episode,
Footloose the movie, definitely. I mean, it's very good.
I'd rather watch this
episode.
any day. But yeah, just giving the Fire Nation back their culture that they're been subsumed in this never-ending war. Yeah, just bringing sympathy. That's very, very necessary, especially these days. But just showing everyone, or no matter where you're from, you're just people. People.
Again, the values that it instilled in an entire generation of kids, and it was able to do that because of its beautiful animation, and because of the how fun and interesting the characters were, so that the people watching it were interested to hear what they had to say on those topics of morality. So again, I think this show was not targeted at me. This show was targeted at my children, but it did teach them the same type of things on some level that Mr. Rogers was teaching you and me, Nessie.
Absolutely.
And actually, this is something that really sort of gets to me, because I often hear it, this sort of a derogatory way in which animation is spoken of, but the defense is usually like, well, not all animation is aimed at kids. There's like anime that's very adult and stuff like that, but I turn away from saying that. Even like something like this was definitely meant to be targeted towards kids, but that doesn't mean that it's not also a very fascinating, complex work. So I just stuff like this that's aimed at kids but also treats them with respect and doesn't talk down to them, this is just as valid as even more so in many cases than the most adult thing you can point at and say that's for grown-ups. But that's showing a deep disrespect for the different kinds of storytelling out there.
I mean, this was an animated show about war, and not just a war,
genocide.
but war and genocide, and a war that's been going on for 100 years. So the generation that it was aimed at, these kids have grown up in a time, at least in the United States, when it's been in a continuous state of war for the last generation of children that are, my son is in his 20s now, my daughter has just turned 30, and they have grown up with this conflict that the United States has been in. And this was something that could speak to those children about, hey, this, let's talk about this in such a way like Mr. Rogers would talk about things. Let's talk about this war that's been going on and help them to, see and understand things. And, adults don't understand. But anyway, just discussing the topic and letting them know that it's okay, to question things. And maybe like violence isn't always the answer. So not a bad thing to teach your kids, especially those that are growing up in a state of war.
That's true. I mean, at the end of the day, what can you say about season 3? But Flameo, Hartman, Flameo. I had to do it. I was waiting for like 20 minutes.
Yes, I'm loving it. So I would ask anybody else like final thoughts, but we're already 15 minutes over where I normally want to stop at. My bladder is is really letting me know that something needs to be done very shortly. Yogi, thank you so much for joining us. You have some really great insights. Again, you're a little bit younger than the rest of us on this panel, so you were the target demographic when this show came out. It's really nice to have that sort of set of eyes on it. So thanks really so much for joining us. You're always a joy to have as a guest anyway, no matter what the topic.
It's
but
a joy to be here. I can never come on this because I don't watch any Marvel or Star Wars stuff. So I'm glad I finally got one when I have opinions. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're always welcome. But yeah, we do a lot of Star Wars and Marvel stuff. So
does that mean if I just don't watch Marvel stuff, I won't have to come on to talk about it?
Yeah, John, that means if you don't want to watch Star Wars and Marvel
doing it for
stuff,
years.
If you don't want to watch Marvel stuff, you can be not the co-host anymore. Anyway, but yeah, really, seriously, Yogi, a joy to have you. Nessie, John, you guys are awesome as always. Nessie, you won't be. Well, actually, none of y'all will be here next week. John, you've got a stream next Saturday, The Dark Crystal, with the hosts of the Trial by Stone podcast. That's going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, October 9th. Great movie, by the way. I will be there in the chat, harassing you mercilessly, as you know, as I do. Nessie, hopefully you're back on top, back on the channels, your channel, doing something new soon. Same goes for you, Yogi. Really looking forward to it. But next week, it's going to be me and a couple of my D&D friends, where we will be talking about the good and bad habits of being an effective player or dungeon master in Dungeons and Dragons, or really any tabletop RPG. We've got stuff after that, but we'll talk about that later. Next week, D&D stuff. Chatters, everyone who is here live for this, thanks so much. I love having smart people say things and popping it up on the screen, to help us guide the conversation. It's really, the chatters really kind of make this format special. So we love you guys who are here in the chat. If you're watching this afterwards, we love you too, just less than the people who are here live, but you're all right. You're all right. But yeah, so come back next week for D&D talk. Check out John on Saturday for the Dark Crystal movie from 1982.
Yep, 1982.
Saw it in the theater, by the way.
Same.
Yeah.
We're
I
old.
was not born.
We're old. We're old.
Neither was I.
Don't let the gray fool you. I'm actually really old. Anyway, so yeah, but thanks guys for hanging out with us. We'll see y'all next week, and until then, you know what it is. Peace, and be excellent to each other.
Bye, orange juice.